Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Loki Oren, and we are taking a break from playing the game to talk about the most recent patch, which at the time of recording was released about 6 hours ago onto the experimental branch. By the time this video releases, it'll be, give or take a day. But I did just want to kind of talk about the initial patch notes and give my initial reaction to it. I haven't had a chance to play yet. I've got one run in process that I want to finish before I dive into the experimental branch and check out the new content, so be on the lookout for that. Before we go any further, I do want to just mention the classic YouTube slogan. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Look, you all know the deal. It's the same story for every channel. Likes, comments, subscriptions, those help boost the awareness of my channel, get the word out there. And if you enjoy what I do, how about, helping me out? Really appreciate it. Anyway, let's talk about the patch. So, first of all, the main event is new cultists, 3 new enemies to see in ambushes, guardian encounters, and cultist encounters. The first up is the Herald, flavor text, "Hear now, the trumpet of the end." But what I've heard about, because like I said, I haven't had a chance to play yet. The Herald is a backline, kind of high stress and ranged damage attacker, but it's also very fragile. So basically, it's there to, if you can't deal with it, it's going to hurt you. But if you can deal with it, it's, you'll be able to blitz it down fairly quickly. So more like the cherubs than the deacons, I guess. Though this is going to be doing a lot more damage from what I understand. But definitely a nice addition. And as they note, backline, back row combatant with high stress and token manipulation. But also covering an aspect of the cultist encounter that wasn't there before, range damage and stress burst, which I don't really agree with. There's a lot of stress in cultist encounters, but we'll go with that. Next up is the Altar, which is a pure buffing and support character. You can look and see their abilities here. There's healing, there's giving positive tokens, there's stressing someone, there's other buffs. Yeah, from what it seems like, the Altar is all focused on support. And I do think they immediately kind of spell out the obvious. You do not want to leave this thing unattended, because I assume it is going to do god-awful things if you let it. Its flavor text, "Offer of yourself and be cleansed," which I don't think is what the cult is actually offering. This seems like a trap. Anyway, next up, and we've seen the image of this guy before, so this is kind of the confirmation of the Exemplar, loathing made manifest. So Exemplar, they describe it as an apex predator. Cult is so powerful that it could generate its own worship or consume lesser cultists for theirs. So interestingly, everything. These are kind of randomly generated in different matches, but the Exemplar has 2 hard spawns. He will always appear before the third inn, more on that in a second, and always in the first mountain encounter. He's size 3, so thankfully it will only be him. But what's kind of concerning here is the Exemplar can not only, I think, put worship on itself with the fall, it can also eat its allies to gain their worship tokens, which is a problem because its worship ability, which I'm not sure is spelled out here. It's probably Exaltation. Summons another cultist. So this is very much going to be a high damage, high stress fight where you need to beat this thing to death before it obliterates you. And dealing with those worship tokens is going to be valuable. Also, check this. 75% baseline death blow resistance. This thing is going to take some killing. So definitely going to be interesting. It's effectively a mini boss. It's getting that extra action per round treatment. So very exciting to see this. I mean, cultist encounters are very samey at present. So these 3 are definitely going to create an interesting dynamic. So next up, they some other changes to the system. So first of all, the big note here, they're changing. They want to change how the cultist faction is perceived. So the big change is guardian fights. So the final fight before the end, where you have to complete at least 1 lair, and you can do up to 3. They are now only 2 fights long, but you cannot retreat. So it's basically more like it'll be more like the creature den than the lair, which I think is probably a good change because you almost always push the guardian anyway. I've only run from a bare handful, and I definitely think that this, given that they really want to show off all the cultists, that this kind of makes sense. Though it does mean that if you're in a bad way or you have a bad initial fight, this is going to get quite ugly. Um, Also, did it say that the I want to say that I think both layers of the guardian counter are also cultists. I thought I read that somewhere. Maybe I misread. They've also dialed up the severity, so deacons and cardinals will start appearing in cultist ambushes. So when your light gets too low, you'll start seeing deacons and cardinals instead of just two two evangelists and two cherubs. And if your loathing ever reaches full, which is possible, but it's pretty, it's something you can kind of handle, you'll find yourself facing an exemplar. So there is a third way to see an exemplar, though I can't imagine wanting to do that. This, interestingly, the free worship is quite a good change for us. So previously, worship was a start of round skill, which was kind of irritating because it basically meant you couldn't avoid it. Now, worship is a free action, basically like an item, a combat item interaction. So it happens at the start of their turn, and that means they take dots, they can be stunned, they can be dazed, etc. The end of this is that we have a little bit more control over when a character is going to worship. We're going to stop having that conversation of, oh, I can't prevent this worship because they're just going to do it before I can kill it. However, they do point out that cultists can now have multiple worships in the same round. So there's a very real possibility that if you don't deal with like the cherubs as an example, who are kind of the biggest offenders of this right now, keep in mind I haven't fought the Templar, or not the Templar, the Herald or the Altar yet. It's possible that they will be even more of a problem, but you can just have it go worship, and then the deacon exaltation someone to 0, basically. So definitely a good change. I think it's much more in the player's control, but we are going to see a spike in potential difficulty. In addition, they talk about the future. You must remember the world as it was if you hope to save it. So the next update will be an entirely new progression system, which is planned for release sometime in September. We'll hope to hear more about it since then. And if I can just ditch over to Discord real quick, there's also a few UI updates. They're primarily just fixing little issues, fixing trinkets that weren't working properly. And yeah, here it is. So let me just swing Discord in here. So, reaching mass loathing will now result in Exemplar fight. You can no longer retreat from Guardian nodes. And now Guardian nodes contain 2 Cultist battles. Biome 1 always ends in a Deacon fight. Biome 2 always ends in a Cardinal fight. Biome 3 always ends in an Exemplar fight. So you do have an idea of what happens. And then the Mountain fights are no longer randomized. So it's Exemplar followed by Deacon Cardinal. So that's kind of a give and a get, right? And, on the give side, we have, we know what's coming. So you can prepare for it. You can kind of build your assumptions. But on the other hand, those are not easy fights. That's definitely, I always kind of like when you get like double cherub, your cherub evangelist deacon, because that's the standard, but it's also a little bit easier in my opinion. And now it's, that's just not going to happen at the mountain. They also changed the flesh warp, so it's random, so it doesn't always start with melee, which is not, kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, I think. And other issues here, this is all available in the Discord. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Very exciting stuff. I look forward to playing it, and you'll see it on the channel in future. But until then, see ya.